Welcome back to The Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg. We are broadcasting live today in Roseville, Minnesota, the belly of the liberal beast. Joining me, as usual, none other than Mr. Mega Jesse. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing good, and yeah, look at it again. There's another China virus coming to get us, so just another scam being perpetrated. It's unbelievable what China is willing to do to our country and the rest of the world, so they've got hell to pay for this, I say.
Maybe that's the story. Maybe it's the media hyping something up. Maybe it's something else. We'll get into that story. We're going to talk about how it's also possibly spreading to Europe. We're going to talk about, this is interesting, this is just something you published and wrote. Tina Smith, Minnesota Senator, junior senator from Minnesota, possibly caught in insider trading, which is perfectly legal for U.S. senators, by the way. We can't do it. We'll get thrown in prison. We get the Martha Stewart treatment if we trade with inside information, but not U.S. senators. So this is a really interesting story. Did you know the media is worried about Trump weaponizing the DOJ if he gets elected? Did you know that? This is the biggest threat to democracy, a weaponized DOJ under Trump. You see what I'm doing there? All right, we'll get into that story. We've got a move to overthrow the Minnesota GOP chair, David Hann. Chauvin stabbed in prison. Maybe we'll get into Israel ceasefire. We got lots of stuff to talk about today. Running the dials as usual is Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing, Dawson?
Hi there. I'm doing good. I had a good Thanksgiving, and I hope that you all did too.
Okay, there you go. We do not have the lovely Bridget here today. She is in flight from an undisclosed location. So, unfortunately, she is not going to be able to join us. But we do have William. William, once again, silenced, not doing well with his pick DeSantis. But he'll do his best to try to read the comments for you today. If you want to be a part of the show, just go in the Rumble comments. I think you're monitoring Facebook as well. But we certainly are following Rumble. We see you, Beth Moy. First time I've been able to watch live for a while. Well, we appreciate that very much. Debbie says, fantastic. Tucker says, riots in Ireland, too. You know what? Maybe we'll talk about that story. So much to talk about. If you want to be part of the program, just go to the Rumble section. If you really want your comment read, and you can interrupt us at any time, hit the Rumble rant, and we will read your comment live on air. And for everyone, most of our audience watches not live, so you get to see it after the fact. Also, whether you're watching live or after the fact, hit like. It tells Rumble and all the other platforms, Facebook, to show this to other people, okay? Because if you don't do anything and you just watch it, by the way, I appreciate you watching it, they're like, maybe no one really cares about this content. So hitting like is very important. All right, so let's get into the story. Pull up the story from the Sun there, Dawson. This is mask wearing and social distancing making a comeback in China. Now, what the hell does it mean when you get reports from China, right? A communist country. You know, did you see the Babylon Bee article? It says communist dictator welcomes leader from China to California. Did you see that?
Yeah, no, I didn't see that one, but that's pretty good.
That's a damn good one. Actually, I got the best meme sent to me yesterday. It's a picture of the Soprano guy, and he goes, "I'm not so certain about the whole Siberian Orchestra being trans."
Yeah.
All right, sorry. So social distancing is making a comeback, chilling echo of lockdown over mystery outbreak 4 years on from COVID. Are you even following the story? Let us know in the comment section. Are you following a story that there is rising cases of pneumonia in children in China? And it turns out possibly in the Netherlands, we've got a story. Where did that story go? I was reading the story. Dang it. Where did that go? Look at that. I lost it. There's a story about possibly Netherlands having a surge of pneumonia cases as well. I must have deleted it. Anyhow, China has brought back mass and social distancing in a chilling echo of lockdown as they battle a mystery pneumonia outbreak 4 years on from COVID. Alarming footage has emerged of mask-wearing crowds inside China hospitals as fear of a new pandemic sweep across the globe. Areas in the north of the country, such as Beijing and Liaoning, I'm not a Chinese expert, by the way, Liaoning, have been hit the hardest, with reports emerging last week that hospitals are being overwhelmed with sick children. A common bacterial infection called mycoplasma pneumonia has circulated since May, but is now showing ground glass opacity in lung scans. as indicator of severe respiratory illness, also known as white lung syndrome. Many parents are deeply worried and are having to wait at least a day just for emergency care. But Chinese Communist government continues to insist that flu and the usual winter bugs are to blame for the latest outbreak rather than a new virus and can cope with the spike in sickness. Now, here's the deal. I haven't seen any reports, credible reports, that it's a novel virus, okay? At this point, one of the explanations are all the lockdowns and other things have taken away people's immunity to what would be a natural outbreak of, I guess in this case, bacteria or maybe even viruses. And that's what's causing this surge in the hospitals. I think that actually could be a rational explanation of it, okay? Which, if that's a rational explanation for it, doesn't it prove that lockdowns are not very helpful in the end, right? Doesn't it kind of go against the idea lockdowns are a good policy? Which, by the way, are people still saying lockdowns were a good thing?
Not too many, no. You know, there's probably a small number of crazies who actually enjoyed being locked down, but I don't think that's what, it's definitely not a popular ideology, and the majority of people just want to be able to live their lives. And, you know, based on the reporting that you had shown there, it sounds like they're trying to argue that that this is hurting kids more than it often has, that, you know, there's stronger effects to this one. It's dangerous to hear what they're doing, and it would be interesting to know if this is novel or if this is just a continuing thing. And China obviously is going to cover up as much information as possible, anything that would look dirty on them in the process. So we can't trust that we're going to get solid, true, good information from China in this entire process. But for them to, for this disease to be out there targeting children, that pulls at the heartstrings, and it's definitely an easy way for the government to try to control people again.
Oh, 100%. Wayzata One says that's what the Wall Street Journal health and science columnist said. What was that? Wayzata One, that it was lockdowns are ineffective? Tell me what it is. Brad Ganser, is there any surprise that this fearmonger has happened again? Trump is leading the polls. Yeah, that's where I was going. So here's the other thing. Maybe it is a new variant. Maybe it's a novel virus, right? And then it's like, I hate to say conspiracy. You go right back to the fact that there's an important presidential election in the United States. And we got to remember, this is what happened during COVID-19. COVID-19, right? We forget about it. Americans, we think of it as COVID-20, right? Yeah. Why is it COVID-19? Because it first surfaced in Wuhan, near a laboratory, by the way, but it came from wet market, wink, wink.
Yeah.
And I think it was October of 2019. I think it was October. It was certainly some point in 2019. That's why it's the...
Yeah, it was right at the end of 2019.
Back for Liberty. So Williams, I don't know why. Williams right here. I don't know why he's messaging here, but I was almost certain Alex Jones is right about COVID lockdowns coming back. Can you believe that? He's waits till he's out of the studio to agree with Alex Jones?
Yep.
I mean, he's just sucking up to you now.
I guess so. Yeah, Alex Jones is in a lot of trouble right now. You know, it's tough to tell because, you know, people like him, he always says, you know, we're in trouble, we might be shut down, but it seems like it's legitimate this time. You know, people need to support InfoWars, and, you know, because we might see InfoWars is gone as soon as March. So Patriots need to be ready for that.
Wait, why is that?
They're saying that the lawsuits are going to bury him, and that he's actually going to have to, liquidate his company and pay all of the Sandy Hook people.
But he could just, liquidate, and then he could just. I mean, really, all we need is Alex Jones. You don't need.
You don't need the company, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot of good stuff with the company, the archive of videos and everything, the library, the articles, the information, the documents.
Does it go to auction sale then?
I have no idea. You know, that's the thing. It's tough to tell because, like I said, Alex Jones is always saying he's on the verge of it, but based on all the reporting that I'm seeing, he might be in trouble. But he's always speaking truth, and yeah, I agree with William on that. It's they're always trying to look for the next excuse to lock us down. We think it's climate change in the future, but they might use another disease in the meantime.
Well, it's both, right? We do have to worry about that. Napkinator's jelly because Bridget must be on another exotic vacation somewhere, and that's 100% true. I don't know if I can tell people where she's at. I want to. I don't think she'd care, but I just won't do it because she didn't give me permission to say where she's at. But it's exotic. It's some location somewhere. There will always be those that trust the face diaper, and yes, but here's a question. In this case, do they actually protect you. That's the problem with the face diapers with COVID-19 is the science is very evident. COVID-19 goes right through it.
Yeah.
Here, if it's a bacteria pneumonia, does it have some bit of ability to protect you? I don't know the answer to that question at this point. I want to be on the side of science, right? Local authorities, however, are already being called upon to open more fever clinics and promote vaccine uptake among children and the elderly. Got to get them vaccines, right?
Yeah.
You know, here's another possible thing. It's just something to get more money and revenue for the big pharmaceuticals, right? Because nowhere in COVID-19 did we say maybe you should choose a more healthy lifestyle and go out and get sun. In fact, in many cases, you got arrested for being in the sun.
Yeah.
I always think about that story of the guy wakeboarding and he gets arrested when he comes back to shore.
Yeah, people that were the only ones at the beach, getting arrested. Yeah, it was crazy what was going on during COVID. And, the mission obviously wasn't health. It was control. If they really wanted to care about people's health, they would have said, this is how you eat healthy. This is how you can work out. These are all kinds of things to improve your health. But, you look at people like Joe Biden. I mean, that dude is not mentally fit or physically fit. He keeps falling off his bike every single time he rides. So, we can't be trusting politicians and the government when it comes to our health. That's something that each of us need to individually research. Wish we were in a spot where the government was trustworthy, but it's not. We can't trust them for anything anymore.
Right.
And that's a sad reality.
Cheers to you, K-Wall for life, our big top fan. I think that's great. All right, let's go. So let me posit the theory that Brad Gansers is saying that whatever this is, right? Because it's starting to get headlines, and I don't know, maybe this is the first time you've seen it, but ABC News and a bunch were reporting about this just yesterday. We have to be somewhat sensitized to the information that's being produced by the corporate media as we approach election season. And as, Brad points out, people say Trump will never be president. There's no way they're going to vote for him. It's like, yeah, the polls are showing he definitely could be president again, which is actually scaring the shit out of the Republican establishment, right?
Yeah.
That's why you got the Koch Foundation, the Koch Brothers with Americans for Prosperity. You can go to actionforliberty.com, check out this story. They're endorsing Nikki Haley.
And they call them, the Kochs call themselves libertarians. It's like, really they're not libertarians. What they are is they're rich guys, they're rich billionaires who want to make sure that they're protected and they don't give a rip about the rest of us. And that's exactly what's going on, Go ahead, send these young guys off to war. Doesn't matter what the war's about, just send them out. So, with Nikki Haley, if she becomes the president, which will never, ever happen, but in the crazy scenario where she's the president, she's sending people off to war everywhere. People are going to Ukraine, people are going to Israel and Iran and wherever the hell else, Nikki Haley wants to bomb that day.
Go ahead and go to actionforliberty.com there, Dawson. Let's pull up that story we put out this morning. AFP, Americans for Prosperity, their political action committee, I think that's what it is, maybe it's Super PAC, which has, I don't know if it's made an endorsement in the past, but now they're getting into the presidential race. Once again, the big money. So we're talking about big money getting behind Nikki Haley, and that's what you're seeing right now. People are starting to abandon Ron DeSantis,
Yeah.
Now listen, Williams over there is still sporting the hat, right? He's not giving up hope yet. But most of the establishment is. So they're getting behind Nikki Haley, apparently. And this is what I found so fascinating about this story. Let me go pull this up here real quick on my computer. They write, as many of you know, AFP Action has never engaged in a presidential election before, but as we said in February, to write a new chapter for our country, we need to turn the page on the past. Donald Trump and Joe Biden will only further perpetuate the country's downward spiral in politics. Now, listen, me personally, I'm not 100% against that statement, okay? Because certainly Joe Biden is, and I don't think Donald Trump's the answer.
But Nikki Haley is the
I know, I'm getting there.
But that's what they're saying.
I'm just saying, listen, it's reasonable. See, Dawson will say, hey, maybe we should have someone younger, right? Because Donald Trump, he's getting up there in age. Now, he's doing a lot better than Joe Biden, but still, it's like, can our nation find a younger, vibrant, leader? But then I go to the point where there's no one else on the stage other than me, Vivek, and I'm more interested in learning about the guy, but there's some question marks there.
Yeah, he's
but
a
there's no one else on that
vegetarian.
stage.
I mean, he's a vegetarian. How could anybody ever trust a
No, I
vegetarian?
didn't know
Vivek
that.
the vegetarian.
No, I didn't know that.
No, that's the thing. It's like
Now
the
I'm very
globalist
cautious.
takeover with Bill Gates, where they want to stop us from eating meat, stop us from eating cows. Vivek is going to be at the tip of the spear of that fight. He's going to try to argue all of us and tell all of us that we shouldn't be eating meat. It's unhealthy for us. If a guy doesn't eat meat, if you can't trust a guy to eat a burger with you, he can't be trusted for president.
Yeah. Well, then they continue on saying, furthermore, a significant majority of voters want somebody new. That seems to be somewhat true. The American people have shown they're ready to move on from the current political era, so AFP action will help them do that. Then they go on to write in this release, AFP Action is proud to throw our full support behind Nikki Haley, who offers America the opportunity to turn the page on the current political era. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
New? That's like regurgitating the George W. Bush era of politics.
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing new.
Right.
She is so bad on foreign policy. I wouldn't vote for her.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
It's like me in 2008. I was homeless, man. I'm totally homeless. Let's be honest. And I'm not saying you throw your vote away if you go third party at all. Vote your conscience, right? But you usually know going into Election Day that there's just not a lot of momentum by a third party. In 2008, I knew who Obama was. I could see through that bullshit. But John McCain was bad. And I could argue John McCain might have been worse because we would have had a great expansion of like the federal welfare system, and it would have been a Republican at charge of that. We would have had worse probably foreign policy. You can't imagine being worse than Obama, but he would have got us into more wars.
Yeah.
So McCain would probably have been worse. And the worst part about the McCain presidency, we wouldn't have had the 2010 Tea Party surge that gave you like Mike Lee and Rand Paul. So in my opinion, we would have been worse off with John McCain. Now we're faced with Nikki Haley and Joe Biden. Now, I don't know how you can get worse than Joe Biden, to be quite frank with you. I've never seen the country deteriorate this quickly. But it's not like this is a great other option. I don't buy any of her bullshit about how she would change things in Washington, D.C. K-Wall for Life says, so the people, by the way, $10 Rumble Round. Thank you very much, K-Wall. So the people funding the Rhino Globus wing of the Republican Party want a censorship-happy Globus. I forgot about that. I should have put that in the article, too. Yeah, she's pro-censorship.
Yeah.
But, to me, the biggest concern, and this was her comment, after Israel, she says, this was not just an attack on Israel, this was an attack on America. That's the crazy kind of thinking that gets us engaged in these entanglements overseas that will eventually bankrupt us further and then maybe put our own blood and soil to die overseas for something that America shouldn't be involved in. And, same thing with Ukraine. She's just honestly nothing different. Here's her past, right? State representative, like 10 years, governor of South Carolina, ambassador to the United Nations. Which, by the way, if you're the ambassador to the United Nations, your whole policy should be getting us the hell out of there, and she didn't.
Or
and then
just cutting the funds
the funds. Yes,
I'd like to see. I think the UN can be worked within. It's one of those things that we don't want to have the world fall apart. If it's the one organization that can bring all of them together, we need a fighter in there to go and fight like hell. And
well, then we don't fund the whole thing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I'd say we could cut 90% of our funding with them, and we'd be A-okay.
But we don't need to take taxpayer money to go give to the UN to
give
definitely
not how
policy papers on global warming.
Yeah, definitely not how Nikki Haley was handling it.
Right, and most recently she was a board member of the major defense contractor Boeing. Right now, Boeing, obviously a big company, makes planes in the private sector. Okay, good, but they're massively a defense contractor, like huge, right? So she's not like an outsider; she's like an insider, right? And she's taken on this anti-Trump wing of the party. Now, once again, I don't personally have this big affinity to Trump. I'm not like MAGA Jesse. I got a big affinity to the Trump people. Here's the thing that gets me: it's like the Nikki Haley's of the world. They look at the situation, and the MAGA people, and they have no solution for this. The MAGA people are crazy. Well, you got to contend with the MAGA people. They're too big of a portion. You can't ignore it. How are you going to win over these people? And I don't know what their answer is to it. At least Vivek realizes that I have to appeal to that base of the party.
I think they're all just banking on the fact that they think Trump might get locked up, or killed.
But it's
that's
like
the
these
only
people
situation
aren't
where
going to
they have
go
a
into
chance.
Nikki Haley. They're going to go someone that wasn't. rubbing in their face and telling them
but, they're
terrible.
hoping it's too late by that point. They're hoping that the primaries already happened in the majority of the states, so that basically you're only down with a couple of options, and then they can try to force us Trumpers to get behind one of these people. We'll see. It depends on what goes on with Trump in these legal cases, and then as long as he stays safe, he should be okay. But all these other candidates, they're just building a Plan B scenario in case Trump is somehow out of the picture, because all of them know that they cannot beat Trump. And none of them are even really trying. All of them are looking so pathetic in their attempts to do it. So, Nikki Haley, it's pretty unbelievable that she's getting this kind of support, but, it's only from the billionaire class. I don't think she has a real grassroots level of support. There's people here and there, but most people are seeing it exactly through her because she's just another career politician.
Right. All right, well, let's bring up Trump here since we're talking about him, this story. And then we're going to get into Minnesota Senator Tina Smith and her insider trading. This story you'll probably only hear from us. I don't think anyone else has picked this up. So we've got The Guardian, which is a rag in the UK. And this is to me hilarious. I think you'll find this interesting. It's called Openly Authoritarian Campaign, Trump's Threat of Revenge Fuel Alarm. Now, it is interesting to note that this is a foreign paper looking at America and opining on American politics, right? Although the reporter is reporting from NDC, because obviously just like our media, their media goes overseas and has like a bureau there. But I'm just going to read these first two paragraphs because this one is delightful. Trump's talk of seeking to weaponize the DOJ and, quote, retribution for opponents poses a direct threat to the rule of law and democracy in the U.S. should he win a second term, experts say.
That's
as long as the
ridiculous.
experts say it.
That's ridiculous. You mean what Joe Biden's doing right now? Is that what they're talking about? Because Donald Trump didn't do any of that in his first term, did he? Now they're claiming, he's going to use and weaponize the government against his political enemies. He can't even get the deep state on his side. How is he going to be able to do that? Even his own attorney generals were going after Trump, so he can't even trust sometimes his own administration because they're going to try to backstab him too. So, how is he even going to be able to do it in the first place? And also, he has never indicated that he's going to do anything like that. He's called out the corruption. He's called out some of these traitors to our country, General Milley, telling China, don't worry, we're not going to attack you, giving China some updated information. It showed that Milley and others, their priorities with China over our own country, and a lot of the members of the deep state, they're all globalists. They're not nationalists who love this country. They're not people who love freedom. So it's incredible. The Democrats, it's the weakest possible argument. You accuse others of what you are guilty of. It's something pretty obvious once people get the picture and realize that these people are just lying and they're just saying, like I said, they're guilty of what they accuse of. But it's such a weak argument because it's so pathetic. You'd think that these are our political leaders; they'd be able to come up with the best ideas and answers and debate.
Well, they're experts. That's what it says.
They're experts, but
that's what the article
this is
says.
the best they can do. It's pathetic. I can't believe that they just keep thinking that these smear jobs are going to work. They never work on Trump.
But don't they kind of work a little bit? That's the problem. Is there still enough people reading their bullshit?
I think it works for the people that already hate Trump. For the people that are just looking for any excuse to hate Trump, they buy it hook, line, and sinker. But anybody who's thinking for themselves, they just look at it and go, this is just another hit piece. So
you're just preaching to their choir, you're thinking?
I think so.
That's possible. But, there just comes a point, I'm trying to put myself in this frame of mind, because it's like I've got opinions, I've got biases, but I would just have to look at that stuff and I go bullshit. And, we put this on Twitter yesterday. I think someone responded, but Trump is guilty. And it's like, I got you. So as long as you already believe in the guilt, then everything's justified, right? Because that's how the legal system works. Actually, kind of is in many regards how the legal system works.
Yeah.
That's how messed up the United States legal system is becoming.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's like, it's because it's Trump, it's justified. And it's just like, that's the danger we're going in. It's the old adage, like, punch a Nazi. Because as long as they're a Nazi, anything you do to them is justified because they're a Nazi, right? Mm-hmm. Well, who's a Nazi? Everyone on the right's a Nazi. Like, gotcha. Well, then we can punch everyone on the right. That's how they think. So it's fascinating to me to see a story like this, but I think you're right, Jesse. I think they're just preaching to their choir.
Yeah.
And that's who's going to be like, yeah, exactly. This is a threat to democracy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hoping enough people with clear heads and clear minds could go, wait a second, what are you doing? And I always think back to that first time the order came down to raid Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
There had to be some FBI agents that go, whoa, guys. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Are
We
we really doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And, when that mugshot came out, Trump became a hero to a lot of people. There was a lot of people, who said, I'll vote for him now. Look at what he's doing. Obviously, this whole thing's a scam. If he can get a mugshot and walk away and, he's obviously not being treated like a typical criminal in all of these proceedings. It's all because it's a witch hunt, and it's all because it's a kangaroo court. That's why, it's theatrical, because they're making it theater on purpose. They want us to, be consumed by it. They want us to think that, Trump could be locked up at any moment. But Trump, he does a really good job of not taking these too seriously, because if you just watch Trump, you'd think he has no way, no chance in hell of ever, going to jail or anything with this. He doesn't show any kind of fear. He doesn't show any kind of guilt. And the media, they're begging him to, if he did just for 1 second, they would run that over and over and over again. But, every single time, they don't want to run the clips because Trump is just calling them out. He's calling them out for being corrupt. He's calling out the election fraud. So they don't even want to run the clips, and they're just begging desperately to, for him to show any kind of sign of weakness. But he doesn't do it. That's not Trump's style. He's always going to, play innocent.
And he's always on point with his talking points, like his messaging.
Yep.
This is more witch hunt. This is more sham or kangaroo court. It's perfect. It's like, and it played right into their hand, because it's like, if he just said that with the first one. By the way, this is so funny, guys. Ready for this? His first case where he was indicted, New York. You remember this one? No, you don't remember this one? It's because no one remembers this one.
Yeah.
This was the breaking news. What was that, March time frame, something like that? He was indicted by, was it Letitia
Alvin Bragg?
Was it Alvin? Yeah, Alvin Bragg. Can't even keep track of all these things. Alvin Bragg. There you go.
Yep.
I don't even remember what the case. Oh, yeah, it was the FEC thing. They thought he paid the hush money to Stormy Daniels. Right?
Uh-huh.
That's how insane it is. So he starts out with those talking points. Then it moves to the classified documents case. Here's the other one we forgot about. We forgot about the one, the other federal case by, what's that weirdo, Jack Smith. With the, what did they charge him with? It wasn't insurrection. What are they charging him with?
Yeah, it was something just like that.
Something like that, yeah. It's like crazy. We don't even know what it is. So federal charges in D.C. And then the fourth one, which gets most of the play, is the Atlanta case, right? And it's like every single time this happens. Actually, you know what? To be honest with you, it goes back to Mar-a-Lago raid, which was last year. That's probably the first time he brought those talking points out. It's perfect. Let's go back to actionforliberty.com, Dawson. When you go to actionforliberty.com, you're going to see right on the front page, Christmas event. Go ahead and click on that. We are 9 days away from this Christmas event. I want to see you there, okay? I want to see a room full of your lovely faces. I know a lot of you guys here on the message stream have already signed up. Can't wait to see all you guys. All you got to do is go to actionforliberty.com, click register now. We're going to be giving away an AR-15 and many different firearms. There's no entry needed. You just show up, come to the event. If you want to get a dinner, it costs $60, okay? And it's a great dinner, good conversation, good people. Doors open at 5 o'clock for a social hour. Dinner starts at 6 o'clock. So make sure you go to actionforliberty.com and do that. Let's pull up this possible Tina Smith insider trading corruption. This is a fascinating story. You wrote it. Tell me about it, Jesse.
Right. So we've heard about this in several different senators and congresspeople. Nancy Pelosi, obviously the most famed example of insider trading. It's when these congressmen and senators go out there and, they buy or sell stocks with non-public material information about a company. This happens in D.C. all the time. They sit on certain committees where they're given confidential, classified, secret information that only is going to be presented in front of that committee. It basically means that you know how the stock market is going to go in certain cases. You know when certain companies are going to get big governmental investments, you know when they're going to be doing big production, you know when they're going to be doing big sales. And that's exactly what has gone on in this case here, because Senator Tina Smith, who sits on the Senate Health Committee, had bought stocks in 2 different companies here within the last couple of weeks. She bought up to $200,000 in a company called Artivion and $250,000 of stock in Tactile Systems Tech. Tactile Systems Tech is a Minnesota company, and they are headquartered here in Minnesota, while this Artivion was headquartered in Georgia. They're both medical device creating companies, so they make different kinds of medical devices. And like I said, Senator Tina Smith is on the Health Committee, where both Tactile Systems and Artivion receive governmental contracts where Tina Smith manages them and earmarks them.
Dawson, pull down here. You can see the actual disclosure.
Yep,
yeah, right
so
there.
that's the financial disclosure right there, and you can see attached to it on the right side there is it's showing Activion and the increase that she has had in her stocks there. So she has profited up to $60,000 from her Artivion purchase in less than 3 weeks. $60,000 is more than the average American makes in a whole year. So Tina Smith, and I should clarify, she did this through her husband. This is how all these Congress people and senators do it. They put it under their spouse's name so that it doesn't look like they're the ones who did it. And, it's like, why else would Tina Smith's husband be investing in these companies unless he had been given some information by her that says, hey, this is about to make some big money here. There's a reason she made $60,000 in less than 3 weeks because of Activion. And then scroll down a little bit more there, Dawson, because with Tactile Systems, the stock has risen over 43% and has risen every single day since she has purchased it. So as you can see on that right end there, it's just been a constant uptick. This is proof that Tina Smith had some sort of idea, unless she's some kind of genie that can predict the future of markets. They had some sort of a reason and idea.
unless that superpower came recently.
Yeah, exactly, because she didn't have it before. But all of a sudden now, she's able to predict these markets perfectly, and they can come out making a huge profit. It's a joke, and so go ahead and scroll down a little bit more. I found on the Better Business Bureau's website that this company, while they do have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, if you go to the customer reviews, they have 1.62 stars out of 5. So what does that say? That means that the customers of Tactile is unhappy with the business. They think they're corrupt. There's obviously something going on if they have a 1.62 star rating out of 5. That means that the customers aren't happy, but for whatever reason, the Better Business Bureau seems to think they're doing okay. And as you can see in that tweet there, I just wanted to call that out too, because Angie Craig, Minnesota's congressman out of CD2, hasn't been very vocal on this, but she's been very vocal on the issue of insider trading. I guess you don't call it out when it's a member of your own party and your own state, because that might get a little uncomfortable. I guess Angie Craig doesn't have any interest in holding her own party accountable. Angie Craig just wants to talk about the issue, pretend like she's an independent, when really she's just lock, stock, and barrel, completely in the tank of the Democrats, and she'll do anything to defend and protect them. That's exactly what's going on with that. And anybody with good faith who's looking at this issue with common sense, they're saying we should not allow congressmen to buy and sell stocks. We know it's only going to lead to insider trading. They make enough money with the jobs they got and the speaking gigs they get. They don't need to be allowed to do insider trading on top of it. So we need to see the U.S. Senate. We need to see the Democratic Party and the DFL, both nationally and here in the state of Minnesota. They need to call out Tina Smith, and I say call for her resignation. If she is doing insider trading and receiving our tax dollars as her paycheck on top of it, she can't be trusted. She needs to resign.
This story came, I think, from a tweet that we saw in off of Unusual Whales, which is a Twitter account, which is really good. And I posted that on one of the lines here, Dawson, the actual tweet. Mm-hmm. They did a recap of all the so basically what they do is their job is to look at these reports and then report on who's getting these sweet deals. So it's really interesting to see how well these stocks have done in a short duration since she's owned it. And then, of course, she sits on the health committees, which is a direct conflict here. They wrap it up, and they, in the year and see who's made the most gains in their portfolio. In fact, if I'm looking at this right, and you guys can look at it, it's unusual_Wales. That's the Twitter handle. Mm-hmm. Members of Congress that beat the S&P in 2022. I'm guessing this is trades made into only year-to-date included for comparison. So I'm guessing, it's got the S&P. Oh, okay. So in the year the S&P in 2022 lost 18 points, it has, all the people that outperformed the S&P 500. Now, it's not the largest list that you'd ever see. And, of course, we'd have to look more into the list to kind of understand it. But, like, Debbie Schultz was 51% that year. That's her returns in the stock market. Mm-hmm. Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Former DNC chair, yeah.
But the top person's Patrick Fallon of the Republican Party, right? Mm. Okay, so, this is what I like, and this is also why we're targeted by both sides of the political aisle, because we'll call out bullshit on both sides. Now, you do on this list, and I see it's got, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene on it. She had 6.2% returns. Now, here's the thing is there's nuances to this. Perhaps, and I'm not saying she's not privy to corruption. She could be just as privy to it as everyone else. Mm-hmm. But there is a chance that someone like her was just bearish on a lot of the things that year, and that ended up being very beneficial. Mm-hmm. But that's just the nature of how she sees the world politically. Right. I'm guessing that's not the case of Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, and I see a good comment from K-Wall for Life here. Cut Tina a break. She's just trying to fill the Minnesota insider trader role now that Dean Phillips isn't running for Congress again. So, that's a perfectly good explanation, too, I think. I think that, with Dean Phillips out, and honestly, I don't even know if I believe Dean Phillips is out of the race because Dean Phillips is not becoming our president. He would much rather be in Congress than not. I think he's going to run again. We'll see.
Well, what's so crazy about that? I love how people are like, what's his plan then? It's like, Dean Phillips is doing just fine in life. Why does he have to have a plan? Like, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he just doesn't want to be in politics anymore.
Maybe.
Imagine you're Dean Phillips and you see, listen, I don't know Dean Phillips at all, okay? I'm just going to put it this way. He's incredibly wealthy. Yeah. Phillips Vodka, right? Phillips Spirits or whatever the hell it is. You go out to Washington, D.C., and you advance yourself to the point where you're at least sitting there on stage on the front stage of this, when it comes to nominating Hakeem Jeffries. He was right there. We reported this. We opened our show in January in the speaker battle. He's right there with Hakeem Jeffries. He's giving intro speeches. Clearly, he's kind of in the fold of leadership at that point. Mm-hmm. I don't think he had an official leadership position, but you don't sit right next to them and give speeches for Hakeem Jeffries if you're not kind of being brought in the fold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just imagine he is a progressive. He's a Democrat, and he sees the absolute lunacy of what the Democrats are doing, getting behind Biden, and he doesn't like this, and maybe even sees it for what it is. They're going to a convention, and they're just going to merge out the convention with a person they selected themselves, and no one could do anything about it. And he's like, that's it. I'm going to push back.
It would be interesting if he was honest in that kind of strategy, because he definitely doesn't say anything like that. He says, Joe Biden's a good man. I just think it's time that we move on. I think we need a younger generation of leaders. He doesn't say the quiet part out loud. That,
well, hold on, but he does say that, let's just give the devil his due, that he does think the policies are good, which is where we would have the big arguments. But he's just like, what are they doing here? This guy's going to lose the election.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But I guess what I'm saying is, does he think that the convention is going to be thrown up in the air and that there could be, multiple, does he think that Joe Biden is actually going to be the candidate? It's interesting to see what would actually go on there. And I don't know if you had seen this. John Fetterman has actually gone after Gavin Newsom, saying, we got actually two people running against Joe Biden in the Democrat primary. We got Dean Phillips and Gavin Newsom. One of them is just has the balls to admit it. That's what John Fetterman said. So, John Fetterman's even going after Gavin Newsom a little bit, and that Newsom-DeSantis debate is going to be in just a couple of days here. I think it's in 2 days or something, with Sean Hannity moderating it. So that will be pretty interesting. I don't know how it's going to go. I honestly don't expect DeSantis to look that good. I think Newsom is a lot slicker than him. So we'll see what goes on. But
yeah, I'd be interested too. He's not the best debater, but
yeah,
he's not terrible.
Yeah,
yeah,
and he might
His
do better
policies
against
are
a
better.
Democrat than a Republican in the debate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be fascinated. Brad Ganser writes, isn't it possible for these dolts to beat the S&P without non-public information? 100%. Here's the thing. And I used to be in the investment world. I know this. Like, you're not outperforming the S&P 500 over a span, let's just say 5 plus years, without some kind of, like, you would be top tier as a money manager. These guys are not top tier money managers, okay? So yeah, for 1 year, why don't you just pull this up here, Dawson? Go click on that tweet. Line 17. That's a tweet from Unusual Whales. This is about Tina Smith. And then what I want you to do is I want you to click on Unusual Whales account there on the top. And I think their 2022 returns is right at the top here. Scroll down a little bit, right there. Okay, so that's the graphic for who outperformed. Just click on that, and you can see the S&P is the second to bottom. It's negative 18.2%. This is last year's returns, obviously. Nancy Pelosi actually didn't beat the S&P that year. Okay, she's infamously for outcompeting. So even though Mitch McConnell lost 6.9%, he outperformed the S&P 500. That's the argument they're trying to make. Dan Crenshaw's on that list. You can see red and blue, so it's a very bipartisan list. The top two, as I mentioned, Patrick Fallon, a Republican, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democrat. So now if it's just 1 year, it means really nothing. You could have been, like I said, a contrarian, and you won big, right? Or, you pull out a significant portion of your investment. Well, that one makes sense here. It's probably still measuring the returns that are in there. Yeah, let's say you pull out a ridiculous amount of your investments and you're just like maybe long on a blue chip stock, one stock, and that just did better than S&P 500, right? S&P 500 could be down 18%, but one of the 500 companies is up. So what if you were just lucky and got that one 500, one of that one company, right? So if you did this 5 years in a row over a span, even if you're just averaging it, it doesn't even have to be in a row, but you're averaging it, that's where people like me go, yeah, you'd be really top-tier money managers. 80% of money managers don't outperform the indexes, right?
Yeah.
By the way, when you talk about this, the S&P 500 is just one index, okay? It's the 500 top companies, 30 being the Dow 30 is the top 30, S&P 500 top. But really, when you get down to it, there's so many different indices. You got the Russell 2000, and the Russell has many. You have a bunch of S&Ps that are like overseas. So it really depends on the type of portfolio you have. But the S&P 500 is pretty much considered an elaborate one because it's 500 companies and they're the biggest ones by market cap. So anyhow, to outperform those top companies, right, which changes, S&P changes because, people move up and down, is meaning that you're like, I guess the logic here is you can just invest in an exchange-traded fund that follows S&P 500 companies, right? So if and there's some good investment advice, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay for a money manager, just investing in the S&P 500, you're going to beat 80% of money managers who are going to take a percentage of your, a commission off of what they're selling you as investment. Just typical thing. So really, the realm of good money managers is about that 20% that can beat the S&P 500. So that's the logic here is over a time span, can these people outperform the S&P 500? And if they can, they are an elite trader. And it's just like, so yeah, technically you're right, Brad, or they're getting insider information. I think we know the answer. That's why you have Unusual Whales. They follow this stuff. Now, here's the deal. I don't think you wrote this in the article. Is insider trading illegal for a government official?
No.
Or a senator or a congressman?
No.
It's illegal for us.
Yeah, for
it
us.
puts Martha Stewart in prison. They can do it.
Yep.
Which is a massive conflict interest.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And when these senators like Tina Smith are investing in businesses and companies that have, specifically to do with the committee that you serve on, it's just obvious that it's corruption. And, if Tina Smith was really serious about, these types of things, like if she actually wanted to invest money in the stock market, she could easily pick companies that have nothing to do with anything that has to do with her business in the Senate. But that's obviously not what she's going to do. And I've seen some of the people starting to call her out. I think it needs to happen more in Minnesota because Tina Smith, for whatever reason, she gets swept under the rug. People don't even talk about Tina Smith in Minnesota. If they talk about the senators, it's Klobuchar, but even then, Klobuchar doesn't get enough attention. So the people need to be ready to call out Tina Smith on all this kind of stuff because she gets swept under the rug. I don't know why she doesn't get dragged out more often because she's just another crony politician.
Yeah, she's a snooze fest. That's why.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Ann put me to rest, the senator from Minnesota Senate. Where was I? Oh, Glenn Cotton says Warren Buffett says S&P 500 is better than 90% of financial advisors. And I might have been wrong. I think it was 80%, but yeah, Warren Buffett is probably one of the most renowned best investors of all time. He's one of the type that outperforms. I don't know how much you know about Warren Buffett, but Berkshire Hathaway, which you can invest in, Class A share is worth probably this amount of your house. They do have a Class B share, which are much cheaper. But Berkshire Hathaway is basically a portfolio. And it's such a large company, its portfolio, which invests in Coca-Cola and Geico Insurance and Fruit of the Loom, just to name a couple. Literally the track record of the performance of those companies in that portfolio is like tremendous. That's why Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest people on the planet. The wealthiest being Mr. Tesla, which Tesla's done very well lately. Okay, so I want to get this story in before we sign off today. Where is this? Oh, there's a move to overthrow Han. Let's pull this story up. So our good friend Dale is on the headline there. Look at that Dale. Dale's jacket. Isn't that great? Mr. Conservative voter with a knife sticking out his back that says Rhino. We got a bunch of these jackets, by the way. If you guys ever have an event you want to use these jackets for, just message us. We'd be happy to loan out the jacket. They're great. That's not a real knife. That's a plastic knife. True story. Dale went in to see, what was it, Trump? Or was it Paul? I know it was Paul. Well, I think he wore it at both events. Their Secret Service wouldn't let him into the event with the knife in the back. It's a very fake plastic knife, but it is got a little metal hub. But anyhow, this jacket's been, well, geez, Dale and I should follow where this been. It certainly has been to Orlando, Florida. I brought it down there. It's been all throughout Minnesota. Boy, it'd be really interesting to see where we've taken this jacket.
Yeah, and I read through the filings that were put out against David Han. It's interesting that the title says MAGA delegates. I don't think there was any mention of Trump or MAGA within the filings, so it's interesting that that's just kind of their initial gut reaction. They say MAGA if anyone is complaining about anything David Han related. And David Han, he's totally anti-Trump. All people need to do, Google David Han, Donald Trump, and you'll get all the answers you ever need. Because if you find, all you got to do is look up David Han, Donald Trump. You'll find him saying that Donald Trump is not the future of the Minnesota GOP. You'll find him saying that it's not the present. You'll find him saying that I'm not a Trump guy. I don't like Trump. So, David Han is totally anti-Trump. But I think there was plenty of other reasons that this filing was put out there to have him removed. It wasn't just about Trump, or even I don't even think it mentioned Trump.
I just Googled it. I'd love for you to put something together on that too, by the way, because I think you said on the program many times. The story or the article goes on to say a contingent of right-wing Republicans want to remove the leader of the Minnesota Republican Party, including Chair David Han, at the December 9th meeting of the State Central Committee. State Central is like the insider delegates of the Republican Party. It's like 300-some delegates that make up the core decision. And I shouldn't say core decisions because that's too many people make a decision. But they choose party leadership. They oversee the funds of the organization. A group of delegates and alternates to the State Central Committee laid out their case in a letter for removing Han, who was elected in 2021 after a federal sex trafficking. Okay, blah blah blah. We get you editorializing. The state Republican Party has been financially struggling in part due to the cost of dealing with the Carnan fallout and divided over former President Donald Trump. The insurgent group, that's what it's called, the insurgent. Last I checked, didn't they say they're state central delegates? How are they an insurgent group?
Right.
That's an interesting characterization.
Mm-hmm.
The insurgent group claims Hand failed to responsibly manage GOP resources and maximize support for the 2022 candidates, contributed to a dismal election for Republicans in which Democrats won a trifecta. Hand said everything alleged in the document was well known when state officers were elected in December. There's nothing of substance in it, he said. I just would hope no journalist would report allegations without any basis. Mm-hmm. The leader is Larry Deuce, chair of Mille Lacs County Republicans and a state central committee delegate, said he is one of over 100 delegates and alternates to the state central committee who signed on to the letter seeking new leadership out of about 900 total. They need 2/3 of about 350 delegates to vote with him to succeed. Deuce said that's a high bar, but he's hopeful that once people see the truth, they'll vote for new leadership. Now, we've talked about this at great lengths. Your biggest issue with David Hand is he's anti-Trump. My biggest issue with David Hand, he's corrupt, right? Well, first of all, I guess
my biggest
corrupt
issue
and
is
can't
fairness. Win. That's the biggest thing. All I want is that a party chair is fair.
Right.
And I want them to just be like a rule stickler. I just want them to say, well, let's follow the rules here and actually follow the rules, not just picking and choosing when the rules benefit them. That's what I want in a chair. I don't need someone who's going to be ultra MAGA. I just need someone who's going to be fair and allow the delegates to determine the process, allow the delegates to determine chart the course for our party. That's what I want to see out of a chair. I don't need someone to be, crazy or extreme or tilting the scale towards people I like. I don't want that. I just want someone fair.
Right, exactly. Fair. And he's not fair. He, the Republican Party, David Hand at the helm, cut off data access for, what was that, like 7 candidates? And they acted like, this was because of them. It's like they're all endorsed candidates who just happen to be like Action for Liberty type people, which I don't even know what that means other than the fact they just agree with us on it. It's not like they have like some Action for Liberty endorsement. Mm-hmm. The grassroots conservative people, and they cut off their data access, and this is like right before the primary. And then they lied about it, and they didn't get back to him for like a weekend. So they lost a weekend of door knocking. That's so corrupt, right? So, and we could go on and on about all the things, but the thing that gets me here, 2022 was a terrible year for the Republican Party of Minnesota. We lost everything. The House, the Senate, all 4 constitutional offices. Now, how on earth could you justify keeping your job after that? It's just rational that you would say, I failed, right? I failed. Like, they'll spin it to say, but we, we didn't lose CD7. I don't know how they spin it, but it's like, you lost everything.
Yeah.
So, quite frankly, just on pure performance, you shouldn't be in the position anymore. But it's the unfairness in the process, the corruption, that's so bad. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't have any dog in the race because, quite frankly, I just think both parties are so corrupt at this point, the establishment of both parties. And when I look at the fact that could we nominate Donald J. Trump to be the next chair? That'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
but
I think he's got bigger and better things to do.
Yeah,
than
I know.
The MNGOP.
Take it easy, Tucker.
Yeah,
take it easy. But it's like, I just think that, and maybe there's hope. But the Republican Party at least has some glimmer of hope, right? There's some good people in the Republican Party working towards real honest things. And I'd say Larry Deuce, good for him for doing this. Mm-hmm. But these guys, they're most of the attacks against us, we haven't even told you about the newest attack against us, which is a little bit laughable, but another government agency these people put on us, right? Like, this is half the time coming from Republicans, the Republican establishment coming after us. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, Carla, the good patriot Carla Nelson, not the Senator Carla Nelson, says, good question, Brad, and would we vote for them on December 9th too? What was Brad's question? If they're able to take out Hand, then who is the next he or she up?
No, so basically the way that works is if the chair is taken out, if the chair is removed, according to the Minnesota GOP Constitution, you have 45 days to schedule a new state central committee convention. So that means that there's probably, if successful, the removal of David Hand, if that's successful, a new state central convention will be set for probably somewhere early to mid-January. From there, in that intermediate period, Donna Bergstrom, the vice chair currently of the Minnesota GOP, would become the intermediate chair, and she would have the powers of the chair until that state central convention. So you don't even need to nominate anybody going into this first state central. There's going to be plenty of things going on there. I don't want to get too into it, but anyone interested in organizing and planning on being there talking with me, feel free to chat with me, because we'll see what goes on. I don't have all the answers. I'm just another guy. I'm just a young guy who will be at the state central with me and my opinions. So it's going to be interesting. And no, I don't know all the answers, but there's not going to be a new election for a chair at this next state central. The rules just wouldn't allow it. The only thing that could happen is the removal of David Hand. All
right. Well, let me throw one more thing into the mix here, okay? If I could just finish up my rant about the Republican establishment. We're looking, and this show was about China virus 2.0. I don't know if this is a new virus. I don't know what the hell's going on, but there's an uptick in pneumonia cases amongst children. You can only imagine the thing they got wrong in COVID-19 is it hurt the elderly, not the children, because if it starts hurting the children, it just changes the whole dynamic. And if you want to talk about mass population control, go after the children. It gets people compliant very quick. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you this. There's nothing in the in state statute and law that has changed since Governor Walz unilaterally declared emergency powers, basically gave himself a crown. He was a Napoleon of some sort. Mm-hmm. Gave himself a crown and declared that you got to stay in your homes and we can shut down businesses. Totally illegal, should never have been found constitutional. Courts in this state are terrible, okay? Nothing's changed in law. And the reason nothing's changed in law is because we couldn't get over the Republican establishment hurdle. That's the thing about Action for Liberty, is when we want to change policy, we want to advocate for liberty, we go make sure the Republicans are on board first before we start spending all the money and resources on the Democrats. We couldn't get past the Republican establishment. These people were against the Never Again bill, stopping emergency powers, stopping unilateral emergency powers. I don't give a shit if it's Mike DeWine, a Republican governor, or a Democrat governor like Tim Walz. A governor can't unilaterally declare something an emergency and just take over the powers of a legislative function. And it really comes into play again because in Minnesota, what we did is we changed election laws, allowed anyone to vote. You didn't even need a witness signature on a absentee ballot in the state of Minnesota in 2020, because how dare you put someone not socially distanced away from them. They do away with the laws under emergency powers. And so when we see China flu 2.0, we go, hey, what's to stop them from doing the same exact thing over again? That's the Democrat. Like literally, Trump was going to be, if you for a second don't think Trump was going to be president again without COVID-19, you're insane. The economy, I mean, some of it was fictitious, by the way, but it was booming in a lot of people's regards. Certainly standard of living was a ton better than today. He was somewhat popular. I know we saw favorability polls, but it looked like he was going to win re-election, especially against an aging old Biden who couldn't even go on the campaign trail. The pandemic was almost like planned for him. Hey, he can campaign in his basement and basically do nothing, and we'll garner all these votes. Whether they had fraud and cheated in the system or not, doesn't matter. They made voting so easy and so fraught
susceptible.
With but like it just tilted in the hands of the left-wing operations that was how they won that election.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so anyhow,
I see Brad's comment there. I appreciate the suggestion. I do not want to be the chair of the Minnesota GOP. That's the last thing I want to do. But appreciate your willingness to suggest me. But yeah, that's definitely not for me.
Brad might not be the worst.
Yeah, I'd take Brad.
Brad for chair.
Yeah.
All right, we got to shut things down. We appreciate you guys every time tuning in. We'll be back on Thursday. I think we're going to have some hard-hitting stuff. Eric Mortensen will be back in studio. It's been a while. He's been so busy. Yeah. He's also going to be at our Christmas event. Go to actionforliberty.com, pick up some tickets. He's got big news. Big news. You got to come to that event. He's not going to say it on the show on Thursday. Maybe I should leave that superfluous so you watch the show on Thursday. Nah, you'll be there anyhow. Watch the show on Thursday. Go to actionforliberty.com. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you on Thursday.